Hi. Now that you've learned a bit about what happened in Flint, Michigan, specifically how lead got into the drinking water there, I'm sure you are not surprised to hear that there were a great many folks that responded to this situation, that spoke out about it. And indeed, that's why the situation has now been resolved. And speaking out about situations like that, writing about it, or creating political cartoons about it. These are all works of rhetoric. And so we should talk about that a bit. And then I've got some readings that will help you learn more about this as well. So as you can see, I went kind of fast there. This is a Prezi. It's embedded right into Canvas, right? I'm going to move through this really quickly with the understanding that you can review it on your own, right? So the idea is that rhetoric has been created for a very long time. Indeed, the concept was outlined by Aristotle over 2,000 years ago. And indeed, if you're specifically, if you're having nonviolent protests like the civil rights movement invoked here in this image, then how can you change people's minds? How can you change their actions? It's through words. So if you're looking at this on your own, you'll click the arrows to advance, just like I'm doing here. So here's your definition of what rhetoric is. Keep in mind, though, that in the English department, when we talk about rhetorical texts, we are not just talking about textbooks, right? We are talking about anything that involves language that is used to communicate with someone and potentially convince them of something. So you can have written texts like opinionated articles, you can have spoken text like speeches, or you can have things that involve multimedia, both words and images. So this could be like advertisements or political cartoons. You're going to be writing your rhetorical analysis paper about a political cartoon, which I'll give you two to choose from later. So the idea here is that the person creates the text to try to convince you of something. And our job as scholars is to try to analyze the text to understand how they create this argument. This is not just a science in and of itself, it's going to help us be more conscious of how you create your own messages down the road in other classes. Now, you can't have rhetoric without an exigence. You have to have a problem about which something can be done. And of course, lead in American cities drinking water is a horrific problem, and it is a problem that can be addressed. And so, indeed, that event met the criteria for rhetorical exigence. All right, so it is the thing that prompts the author to create the text. Why do they create the text? Not for fun, not for pay, but because they want to communicate with the audience. They want to share their understanding of the event, the atrocity of it, the outrageousness of it, whatever have you. They want to communicate with the audience. Why? Again, not just for fun, but so that the audience can potentially do something about the exigence. So what I just showed you there is the rhetorical triangle. Rhetorical analysis, then, is the act of explaining the argument the author is making and also how they make it, right? And that's the latter part is the tricky part. I think most students can look at a political cartoon and they can tell me what argument is being made, but the details about how the artist manipulates the text to create the argument, that's the tricky part, and it's also the fun part. So we're going to need some more terminology to be able to do that. So when you're finished watching the video, you can look through the Prezi again if you like, or you can jump into some additional reading about rhetoric, and then you'll be prepared to complete the discussion board activity.